You all still think making $100,000 in America means you're rich? Wait till you see these paychecks.
How much you guys think I make at McDonald's? 2 weeks. I'm a manager. Don't let my shirt fool you. We don't make shit. Me and my husband were both managers at McDonald's. And for 2 weeks, I only bring home, where's it at? $1,100. That's 2 weeks. So as manager, in a full month of working, I bring in, what, $2,400? People are always like, why are you guys so broke? Just our rent alone is $1,500. Our car payment is $500. My car insurance, because I was an irresponsible addict for so long, that's like $400 a month. We live in Phoenix, Arizona. My electric bill is like $200 a month.
That's a manager at one of the largest fast food companies on earth, running a store, and her monthly take-home barely covers the rent, the car, and the insurance. And she is not an outlier. In 2026, intelligence found that between 62% of American consumers are living paycheck to paycheck. What's more shocking is the number holds across income levels. Nearly half of Americans making over $100,000 a year say the same thing. 36% making over $200,000 say it too.
If you kids can't live comfortably on $20 an hour, you have to be overspending. If you make $20 an hour, that is $40,000 a year. After taxes, that is $2,750. The average one-bedroom apartment and utility is going to run you $2,000. You cannot do that making $20 an hour, so you're going to have to rent with a roommate for about $1,200, and that's being conservative. $500 a month for groceries, which is less than $150 a week. $300 for a student loan payment, which is below average. $300 for a car payment, which is below average. $150 for car insurance, $150 for gas, $100 for personal care, $50 for a cell phone is $2,750. That is paycheck to paycheck, leaving you with nothing. Now, if they were to make $30 an hour, that's $60,000 a year. That's $3,900 after taxes. Maybe they decide to get their own place for $2,000 and everything else stays the same. They're left with $350 a month, which is essentially still paycheck to paycheck.
That $350 a month margin is why 43.7% of Americans who already struggle with bills turn to revolving credit the moment anything unexpected hits. And that number is how you get to the biggest household debt figure ever recorded in the country. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Q1 2026 report clocked total American household debt at $18.8 trillion. Auto loans alone hit $1.69 trillion. Credit card delinquencies are at 8.6%, the highest since the pandemic. Student loan delinquencies jumped to 10.3% in a single quarter after payments resumed. Americans aren't overspending. They're borrowing the difference between what they earn and what things cost every month on interest rates that make the gap wider next month. And it's happening to the exact people who followed the safe path they were told to follow.
This is what I'm struggling with in America right now in my 20s. Why is everything so expensive? Why am I making more money waitressing than I would make using my college degree? I barely have a life. I have 2 days off and I work Wednesday to Sunday, doubling just to pay my bills. At 22 years old, all of my bills are in my name. I have no help. How are y'all affording housing? In Myrtle Beach, a one-bedroom apartment is $1,500. It is so scary being in America right now.
She's not asking why she isn't rich. She's asking why a college degree pays less than waiting tables. And that question doesn't stop with entry-level jobs.
Hi, you guys. So it's currently, I think like 8:45, 8:41. I just got home from a shift and I got my first residency paycheck. So I figured I'd come on camera and open it with you guys. So here goes nothing, I guess. Let's see, they got all these whatchamacallits here. Okay. Okay, so gross earnings is $2,227.68. Net pay is $1,774.26. Not horrible. This is for 40 hours? I don't know how much this is for. Okay, so it has my hourly rate. My hourly rate is $39.78.
Here's what she'll figure out when she reads that email. First-year medical residents in 2026 earn a median salary of $70,000. Fifth-year residents top out around $80,000. That $39.78 an hour looks reasonable until you learn residents do not work 40 hours a week. Federal accreditation rules allow hospitals to schedule them up to 80. 79% of residents already work more than 40. Do the actual hourly math, and her real rate is closer to $17. This is a doctor, someone who spent 8 years and around $260,000 in student debt to earn what an experienced barista makes. The doctor equals wealthy assumption is dead. And so is the skilled trade equals security assumption.
I got a serious question. How the is it that I work out in sites like this? Blue collar work, right? We build like this. Valve cans, pipe, backflows, concrete, all that. Blue collar work, you know what I'm saying? How the is it that I work in this? And I'm a heavy equipment operator, so that is what I operate, that is another one. But yet, I'm still struggling to live in America. That's what they say. This is what the old generation says. You gotta work hard, you gotta get you a good job. This is what they say. Work hard, get you a good job, or pick up a good trade. How is it that I work in something like this and got 6 years of experience in this, make a significant good amount of money when it comes to gross pay, but yet I'm still struggling? And I'm living below my means. I don't have Netflix, I don't have any of that shit, right? Just enough to pay the rent, just enough to pay my insurance on my car, barely can get food. Food stamp says I make way too much.
Look at what happened to his wages while he was building the roads and pipes underneath America. Consumer prices climbed 24% in 5 years. Inflation-adjusted wages rose 0.1% for the year ending March 2026. His gross paycheck is higher on paper than it was in 2020, and it buys less at the grocery store than his father's paycheck did in 2005. Food stamps rejected him because eligibility is based on gross income, not what he actually has left after paying rent. It's the same trap dressed differently, but low pay isn't the only thing workers are discovering once they start posting their paychecks. Some are realizing they weren't even being paid for all the hours they worked.
Okay, so I just got off work and I did the calculation today from my job. Let me just cover up my uniform a little bit more. Of how much money I made per hour. Today, I made $15 an hour. I have been with this company for 8 years. I've been flying as a flight attendant for 6 years, and I made $15. Now, mind you, if I lived in the middle of the United States, okay, sure, $15 an hour, fine. I live in Seattle. All of our bases are on the West Coast. $15 an hour. I could go work as a receptionist and work whatever schedule I wanted as a receptionist at a hotel or something and get paid like $23, $24 entry level.
The reason her paycheck barely moved in 8 years has a name. It's called salary compression, and it's happening across corporate America right now. Between 2021 and 2024, companies aggressively raised starting salaries to compete for new hires. But existing employees stayed capped at standard 3 to 4% annual raises, meaning a 5-year veteran can now legally earn less than the new hire she's training. And in her specific industry, there's a bigger scam sitting behind the pay gap that most Americans have no idea exists.
I am a flight attendant. When I left my old airline, I was at about $70,000. Okay. This time around, as a new hire, I am making about $27,000 before taxes.
I've heard that flight attendants don't get paid until the door closes. Is that right?
We do not get paid until the door closes and the brake releases. So when we are boarding, we are not being paid. When we sign into work, we are not being paid. When we are sitting in the airports between our flights, we are not being paid.
That's one of the most successful hidden labor cons in American corporate history, and it ran for almost 100 years. Every commercial airline in the country wrote contracts where the pay clock only started when the aircraft door closed. Boarding, deplaning, delays, layovers, everything on the ground was unpaid work that safety regulations still required them to be present for. The Association of Flight Attendants finally cracked it in 2026. In May, United signed a new contract with a 31% average raise, boarding pay at 29 to 41% of hourly rate, and new hire pay of $37.10 an hour. Senior flight attendants at United will scale to over $100 an hour by 2030. That's what a century of unpaid ground labor looks like when workers finally start posting the numbers out loud. The problem doesn't end with one industry. For millions of Americans, one paycheck simply isn't enough anymore. That's why 28% of Americans now have a side hustle. That sounds like extra spending money, but what the surveys actually found is grim. 80% of Americans with a side hustle say the income is going toward basic expenses: rent, groceries, debt payments, not vacations. The average side hustler is putting in 17 to 20 extra hours a month and bringing in between $1,800 and $2,260 in supplemental income. Which means millions of working Americans are running what used to be considered a second full-time schedule just to hit the #1 job used to cover, and the six-figure earners have their own version of the same math.
How is everyone affording life? Real question. How are you guys doing it? Because my daycare costs the same as our mortgage, which is just wild to me. And I had a crash out earlier today just about how really expensive everything really truly is. And I just don't know how you guys are doing it. So I have a corporate six-figure job. I should be able to afford life. We're not doing anything wrong, just life is expensive. And I'm the breadwinner in my household.
Her daycare bill matching her mortgage is not personal misfortune. In 45 out of 50 states, the average annual price of 2-kid daycare now exceeds the average mortgage payment. In 49 out of 50 states, it exceeds median rent. In most states, infant daycare costs more than in-state public college tuition. The national average is $13,184 per child per year, and it's climbed 24% since 2021. For dual-income households, that eats 10% of the median. For single parents, 33%. This is why one parent, usually the mother, drops out of the workforce in millions of American households. The second paycheck literally does not cover the childcare it requires.
Quick question to any Americans. Between the ages of 35 to 45, especially if you have kids, but even if you don't, how are we affording things? How are you affording anything? How are you affording gas and groceries and healthcare and utilities and all the other 900 subscriptions that are required to live these days? How are you doing that? I'm assuming you all also are not you're not taking any vacations, and you've like us have just cut out the coffee and the Target shopping and the activities for the kids as much as you can. You've taken away. You've gotten rid of pretty much anything fun. Like, you're not having any more fun. Assuming you're also doing that, how are you living?
That last question is the whole video in 7 words. How are you living? The answer is simple. They're borrowing the gap between what they earn and what things cost. This is not paycheck to paycheck anymore. This is paycheck to credit card to next paycheck.
What if I were to tell you that the United States is a second-rate country that is LARPing as a first-world country? This is a list of the hours needed to escape poverty living on minimum wage. Japan, you need 11 hours. United Kingdom, 23. France, 26. Like, going up to the higher tier, you're looking at 44 in Canada. But United States, you need 90 hours. 90 hours of minimum wage work just to escape poverty.
The federal minimum wage has not moved from $7.25 an hour since 2009. 17 straight years without a raise, during which cumulative consumer prices climbed over 45%. This is what the Paycheck Reveal movement is actually revealing. Not that individual people are bad with money, that the American labor contract broke quietly over the last 15 years while everyone was told the economy was fine.
You know what? They keep saying that we're in the age of disclosure. I think more people, especially Americans, need to start disclosing how much they are struggling financially. A lot of people cannot find a job, and it's not because there's just a natural scarcity when it comes to job. It is a manufactured scarcity. They're not hiring anyone. They're cutting 90% of their workforce and getting the remaining 10% to do the work of the other 90%. While not increasing their pay. The cost of everything is going up, but everybody keeps reporting record profits. Nobody can afford to pay their workers a livable wage, but everybody has record profits. But you know who does get paid? The shareholders, who do absolutely nothing for the company.
That is the whole play. Corporate profits have stayed above 10% of the American economy for 15 straight years, a run that had never happened at any sustained point since the government started tracking the number in 1947. Which is exactly what a 27-year-old former data analyst in Washington, D.C. noticed in April 2022. Her name is Hannah Williams. She discovered she was being underpaid by $25,000 at her own job, quit, and started a TikTok series called Salary Transparent Street, asking strangers on camera what they did and how much they made. And it started the entire movement this video just walked through. Everyone who posts a paycheck online right now traces back to one person deciding the private embarrassment of her own number was less costly than the collective evidence of showing it. What these videos reveal isn't that Americans suddenly became bad with money. They reveal that millions of people are doing everything they were told to do, and the paycheck still isn't enough.